Hi, this is Nerdy Exotical. Thanks for clicking on the video. Today, I want to talk about how sisterhood as a system doesn't exist. It does exist as an idea, but as a system, it's not really in practice. This is kind of a tough pill to swallow, especially if you're a non neurotypical and female. I know that we tend to jump into relationships with other women similar to how like men have relationships with each other. We're a lot more all in. And unfortunately, I would say most neurotypical women think of other women primarily as associates, subordinates, and competition. Uh, Female friendship to me seems more like a calculated sharing of resources, opportunities, and just having the sheer numbers to back each other up when it's convenient. I would say that loyalty with surface level friends or associates, and subordinates, you only see them practice loyalty so far as it suits them and as they're rewarded for it. This is different in my view from men because men have a built in system. Speaking socially, that rewards them for making strategic friendships too, but at the same time for just practicing friendship in general. I know they say that there's a loneliness epidemic with men, but I think men don't share feelings, if that makes sense, or practice emotional validation as much with each other. But in terms of spending time with each other, I definitely see that quite a bit. And I would say women, on the other hand, while they do spend time with each other, it's more as a means of spending time in general. I would say they see men and family as more dependable resources in the long run, more of a sure thing than the companionship and support of other women. I think it's kind of like comparing fiat currency to crypto. Sure, you could buy certain things with crypto, but not everywhere accepts crypto because there isn't that a normalization and back system in place across the board in the same way that you could with like a dollar. I'm not saying this applies to all friendships. Obviously, there's exceptions, and you can have really wonderful relationships with women. I think it just takes some time to shift through and kind of build that ability to figure out who's actually going to be a friend, like a really close long term relationship versus, like I said, an associate, somebody that you know and that you can spend time with, but who you don't necessarily want to give too much information to. Like I said, I've in the past poured way too much energy and way too much personal stuff into certain relationships with other women. And if anything, it's made those relationships go south even faster than they probably would have if I had gone a little bit slower. But they probably never actually had the potential to be um, super intimate friendships to begin with. I just made the assumption that since we were friends, that it was going to be that kind of like deep, like, buddy buddy, Thelma and Louise kind of thing. So taking a step back and sussing that out because other women will notice that about you and basically just assume that you're very stupid and very gladly take advantage of you if you give off that kind of vibe of jumping into friendships a little bit too quickly and not putting those emotional boundaries in place. So just taking the time to gradually get to know a person and vet them just like you would a male partner is very important. I know there's a lot of talk in the decentrary men space about why women don't believe other women and how men always stick together. And I think it's not just because women want to be rewarded by the patriarchy. It's probably because some of us have been lied about by other women. You know, some of us have had that experience of being lied to, lied about, gossiped about, bullied by other women. So it's not hard for us to see a man in the same situation and give him that kind of grace. I know that's come up a couple times on channels like UV Edit. I'll put in the description. And while I agree that some of it is internalized misogyny, I think other point is that, like I said, a lot of us have had that experience where we have been bullied by other women and talked down about. So we might be extending additional grace to the men that they might not deserve just from our kind of a misplaced sympathy. And I'm not going to say that they are guilty all the time. I mean, we could argue about that. But even if we did give every woman the benefit of the doubt and we believed every single woman, I think that the point that we're missing is that like some of these women are the same people who would um, do another woman dirty or put her in a really dangerous situation in order to um, basically appease the same men that they're complaining about. Not always, but quite a few times. There's those pick me's that will get themselves into a scrape and then turn around and expect another woman to save them and put her in a lot of danger. I'm not saying always, but sometimes. So just be mindful of that. I'm not saying you shouldn't help women that are in dangerous situations, but obviously also making the time to also be mindful of what's going on and not overextending yourself. You know, like not jumping into a situation, but maybe alerting other people, things of that nature, being aware and not overexerting yourself in a way that puts you at risk. Because at the end of the day, it just puts two people in danger instead of one, and she might have already be reaping the unfortunate karma of her own bad decision, which I know that some people will say is just an end result of the patriarchy. But at the end of the day, if you can figure out how to escape the patriarchy, so can she. So that's all I wanted to discuss on this topic. Leave a comment below if you've had any experiences with other women and how you've dealt with it in terms of sussing out if they were like a really intimate friend or just an acquaintance. Well, anyways, until the next video, I hope you move towards the life that you want with intention. Take care.